Hi, today we are going to show a case in which there are just two places where the zonule is the lens is attached at two places with zonules, and if you can see here at 12 o'clock and 6 o'clock there are no zonules. After we've made the entry, we are doing a capsular axis which is going to be measuring roughly between 5.5 to 6 millimeters. We would err on the smaller side rather than a larger axis so that we can have adequate support for the CTR to be placed inside the bag. We've done a gentle hydro dissection, decompressed it. At all times, we are trying to see to it that the chamber does not fluctuate so that the vitreous doesn't come out from the sides of the lens. A hydrodelineation would be a good addition in these cases because it helps in debulking the nucleus and decreasing the amount of maneuvering that can be done to the nucleus during surgery. Here we are using the infinity with a bottle height of 90 centimeters. Uh, a small point here, if you are seeing the right hand side corner, the irrigation which is fluctuating, that's actually the intraocular pressure which is showing up. It's an extrapolated data from the back pressure sensors. So I've kept the aspiration rate pretty low because I don't want turbulence in the chamber, and especially when you have a pre-existing rent or a zonular dialysis, that's how typically you would want the aspiration to be. So you need to slow down the events in the chamber and the turbulence in the chamber. Even the vacuum kept here is pretty low, but you can see that even at such a low vacuum, it is easy to hold and chop the pieces. I'm removing off a small pie so that I have space for the endocapsular ring to be inserted into the bag. Please note that I have not yet rotated the nucleus. I'm forming the chamber with a dispersive viscoelastic so that the chamber doesn't collapse. I don't want the vitreous strands peeking out from the sides. I have inflated the bag adequately with the same, and now I am trying to insert a 13 mm CTR exactly from the area where I have removed the wedge. The logic being that when you're doing so, it tends to go exactly at the equator beyond the cortex, and the cortical wash becomes a bit easier. So you don't get tangled cortex which is going behind the CTR, and that's pretty helpful. So this is a one-handed maneuver in which I'm using the McPherson to push the CTR into the bag, and the trailing loop I will try to insert using a Sinskey hook, and that's how traditionally I do it. Uh, you can also do it through the side port, but in this case I've done it through the main port incidentally because my wedge is exactly opposite to my main port. And when I'm using the Sinskey, I'm going to be many a times you do get this problem when in which the Sinskey actually gets stuck in the eyelet, and in that case you can just use a second instrument like a repositor and just tap it so that it goes in the bag. And then you proceed with normal phacoemulsification. You would see that the bag is pretty stable now, and I'm able to easily do the phacoemulsification. It's not very fast because of the lower aspiration rate and the lower vacuum rates. My torsional amplitude is 100% considering that this is an infinity, and also my IP is on here. So intelligent phaco is a very good addition to the infinity because it helps in decreasing the clogging on the of the tip, and also helps in getting the piece out of your what you say kind of a complete occlusion, so that the tip is never occluded at any time, and that increases the efficiency of the ozil. So there has to be a minimal maneuvering, and the maneuvering is more centripetal and then rotational rather than centrifugal and rotational. So you're trying to get the pieces to the center so that it doesn't put too much stress on the zonules when you're rotating the nucleus or the epinucleus. So what we are doing is a vertical chop using a blunt chopper. It's more like a elongated Sinsky hook with a tapered point. There are no sharp edges to it or no sharp points. So that's the epinucleus being eaten. I usually don't change my settings for the epinucleus, but yes, you can obviously have a different setting for the epinucleus with lesser power being used for the epinucleus. And you see, even when the last piece goes in, the chamber is pretty stable. And now I'm going to reform the chamber with a dispersive viscoelastic, and we will try to do a dry aspiration of the cortex. So you do gentle side to side movement so that if there is any cortex which is entangled in the CTR, in that case it just comes out slowly. We need to replenish the dispersive viscoelastic in between so that the chamber is well formed, and we don't pull on the equator as well, so that whatever existing zonules are, they are kept as much intact as possible. I'm extending the wound with a crescent because I'm going to be using a 3-piece IOL. This is an Alcon 3-piece IOL. The leading haptic is already in the bag, and the optic also is in the bag. And now I'm going to try to dial the entire lens in the bag, but I'm trying to do the maneuvering as less as possible. And once it's in the bag, we have to dial it in the direction in which there are no zonules. So at all times you need to see to it that the chamber is well formed. So that's the trick by which you will ensure that the vitreous strands do not come out. Many of these clips are unedited because we need to understand how to dial these three-piece lenses, because many a times they do get stuck up in a particular position, and then it's difficult to dial the entire IOL in the back then. I'm removing off the viscoelastic and then forming the chambers. Now, if you see, I'm not hydrating my wounds so much. In spite of that, my wounds do not leak. That's because you have to make a nice box